Let's dive right into this explainer. Think for just a second about the absolute biggest, most influential brands in the world today. We're talking about massive retail giants managing these incredibly complex global supply chains, or huge NGOs deploying critical clean water systems across entire continents. These organizations are total powerhouses, right? And they already employ some of the absolute sharpest, most capable minds in their respective industries. Yet, year after year, without fail, these talent-filled organizations bring in external management consultants. It's a really fascinating paradox when you think about it. If you already have the best people in the world on your payroll, why on earth would you pay an outsider to tell you how to run your own business?
To put into perspective just how big of a deal this actually is, $300 billion. That is the staggering scale of the global consulting market today. Companies are literally pouring massive amounts of capital into external advice. The financial stakes involved here are absolutely immense, which tells us right away that the value these consultants are bringing to the table must be equally massive.
So it really begs the ultimate $300 billion question, doesn't it? Why? Why pay an outsider to come in and help run your business? What exactly are these massive companies getting in return for that astronomical spend? Well, today we're going to break down the exact mechanics of why organizations hire these consultants and, more importantly, how they actually justify that massive return on investment.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to decode this mystery by exploring the power of objectivity, bridging the execution gap, the reality of ROI, and structured problem solving before wrapping up with a quick knowledge check.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the power of objectivity and stripping away bias. Look, when you're deeply embedded inside a company, you inevitably inherit its history, its culture, and its internal politics. You develop corporate blind spots. It's just human nature. Because of this, internal teams often just see the surface symptoms when performance starts to drop. External consultants, however, step in completely decoupled from all that background noise. Because they don't sit anywhere in the company's political hierarchy, they don't have to fear office politics. They can ask the really uncomfortable, hard-hitting questions to find the true root causes that internal teams might simply overlook or, honestly, intentionally avoid. And to get to those root causes, consultants rely heavily on really clear visual frameworks, like the Ishikawa or fishbone diagram. They use this tool to systematically strip away all that internal bias. By visualizing the problem this way, consultants can deliver a totally honest, unvarnished assessment. The whole goal here is to empower leadership to act on hard reality, rather than just making safe decisions based on comfortable internal consensus.
Moving right along to Section 2, bridging the execution gap, or what I like to call the plug-and-play injection.
Organizations frequently face really high-stakes disruptions. Internally, the general management team might do a phenomenal job running day-to-day operations. But what happens if a disruption hits? Say a traditional retail company suddenly needs an immediate AI-driven data analytics overhaul, or an NGO faces a massive, highly complex cybersecurity threat. It just doesn't make any financial sense to keep highly specialized, incredibly expensive tech teams on the permanent payroll full-time just in case something happens. Instead, consultants act as this elite plug-and-play skill injection right when the crisis hits. Now, here's a huge misconception we need to clear up. Modern consulting is absolutely not just dropping off a dusty 80-page slide deck on a CEO's desk and saying good luck. It's entirely about execution. Consultants step in to build very clear strategic roadmaps. They align stakeholders whose priorities might be totally fragmented across different departments, and they apply incredibly rigorous project management frameworks to push through that natural internal resistance to change that happens in literally any large organization.
Which brings us to Section 3, the reality of ROI and justifying those fees.
So how exactly do companies justify those eye-watering fees we talked about earlier? Well, it usually comes down to high-risk pivot points. We're talking massive mergers and acquisitions or projects with incredibly tight, high-pressure timelines. There's a great industry saying, when making a multi-million-dollar decision, the cost of a mistake absolutely dwarfs the cost of the consultant. In these massive corporate maneuvers, consultants are primarily there to de-risk the entire operation. It's essentially a giant insurance policy for a multi-million or even billion-dollar bet. So, practically speaking, how do they actually de-risk these operations and secure that vital ROI? It's highly tactical. First, they do it by benchmarking performance against vast cross-industry data sets that an isolated company simply wouldn't ever have access to. Second, by using proven, repeatable frameworks to massively accelerate decision-making. And finally, by preventing incredibly costly execution errors before they even happen. They basically bring a sense of calm clarity to highly complex and chaotic environments.
All right, on to Section 4, structured problem solving. Let's demystify the actual process they use. So, what exactly is structured problem solving? Put simply, it is the systematic process of taking a massive, totally intimidating challenge and breaking it down into small, manageable, and testable parts, using pure logic to isolate variables. The crucial thing you have to remember here is that consultants never, ever just guess. They never jump straight to random fixes. The whole shebang is a logical progression. Let's make this concrete and walk through a retail chain puzzle step by step. Step 1, leadership notices customer satisfaction is just plummeting. Now, if you lack structure, you might panic, jump to a surface fix, and say, quick, let's just retrain all the store staff. But a structured approach demands Step 2, segment the data. And then Step 3, isolate the variables. Is the drop in satisfaction actually due to slow checkout times in the store? Or is it because of unclear digital communication on the company's new app? By breaking the problem down logically, every single recommendation you make becomes purposeful, measurable, and highly effective, rather than just a shot in the dark. Okay, Section 5, knowledge check. Let's do a quick interactive review. Let's do a rapid-fire active recall test to really lock in what we've learned today. Treat this kind of like a mini case interview prep. Question 1. Based on everything we just covered, why do organizations actually hire external consultants? Is it A, to maintain the status quo without any changes? B, to gain objective and unbiased analysis? C, to reduce the workload of internal teams permanently? Or D, to avoid making any decisions? Take a quick second to lock in your answer. If you guessed B, you hit the nail on the head, to gain objective and unbiased analysis. Remember, stepping away from that inherited corporate history and those internal blind spots is incredibly powerful. Pure objectivity is exactly what allows leadership to make decisions based on actual reality. All right, question 2, let's keep the momentum going. When is consulting most likely to deliver a strong, clear ROI? A, when the company faces a high-risk decision with a major financial impact. B, when the company just wants to delay decision-making. C, when internal teams have unlimited time and resources. Or D, when the company wants to avoid stakeholder alignment. Make your choice.
And the answer is A, when the company faces a high-risk decision with a major financial impact. Like we said, the extremely high cost of a mistake in a multi-million-dollar maneuver completely justifies those upfront consulting fees. It is all about de-risking the pivot. So, bringing this whole explainer together, the big takeaway here is that organizations don't just hire consultants just to have smart people in the room. They hire them for their core, indispensable value: absolute objectivity, specialized speed, and a fiercely structured approach to pure chaos. And listen, mastering these very concepts is exactly how you can position yourself as an indispensable asset, whether you're building a career in business analysis, data science, or project management. I want to leave you with this final thought, and it's a bit of a challenge. Don't just relegate these frameworks to multi-billion-dollar corporations. Look at your own life. How could you apply structured problem solving to your very next big career challenge? The next time you face a massive, totally intimidating obstacle, don't just guess at the solution. Break it down into small, testable parts and isolate those variables. You might be seriously surprised at the unvarnished reality you uncover. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.